I'm Sherilyn Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 171 of the Brilliant Balance podcast, and today I am talking with Allie Brown, one of the most recognized entrepreneur coaches in the world. Allie is the founder and CEO of the women's business empowerment company, We Lead. And she is really one of the most recognized coaches for entrepreneurs anywhere. She's built a coaching and consulting enterprise that is ranked in the Inc. 500 of fastest growing private companies in the US. In 2020, she launched a new venture called The Trust, which is a premier global network for women entrepreneurs who are generating 7 and 8 figures of revenue in their businesses. She has been named one of Forbes' Women to Watch. She's one of EY's Winning Women Entrepreneurs, and she was an entrepreneur delegate for the United Nations Foundation Global Accelerator. She also was featured on the ABC hit primetime show called Secret Millionaire. Allie and her Australian husband, Brett, and their twins are currently based in Scottsdale, Arizona. And she was kind enough to join me for a live episode with a number of my VIP clients. So you may hear her reference that during our interview. It was a fantastic interview. I can't wait for you to hear it. Let's welcome Allie to the show. Well, welcome, Allie. I'm so excited to have you here today with us.
Yeah, it's great to be here and here with that hair that you have.
You're so nice.
The hair needs its own channel.
Yes. Well, that's very kind.
I'm still staring at your hair. I'm sorry.
Let's kick this off by getting everyone grounded in what your life looks like today, like literally today. Tell us what your schedule looks like, family, work stuff today.
Today, do you swear on this show?
You can.
Oh, no. Okay. Today, there's days that are nailed down like yesterday, like I had the team meeting and everything and I got to the gym, and then today's a bit of the shit show. Woke up, it was raining, it was cold. We're in Arizona, so we get very windy if it's like under 60 degrees. And so I just, didn't go. And then we discovered there was some stuff left outside that the kids left that they shouldn't have, and it's raining. So we're running around outside, putting stuff in the rain. And but then, my team then kind of saving the day today was like immense. And so generally what the schedule looks like, okay, so like in a day of the life kind of right today. Yeah. So I made that. So what I did is I told Brett to go to the gym because he hasn't been in a while. And I said, you know what, why don't you go? I'm feeling lazy anyway. I don't want to get out of my sweatpants. Just go. And he went. So I made the kids breakfast. I made sure they were all set. I have 7-year-old twins. And then it's screen time. And so for them, let's be honest.
Yes. Yes.
And then whatever you want to do iPad time, whatever. Before we have a girl, Gabby, who comes to help with schooling because I did pull the kids out of school this year. I just think what's going on is insane. And
I want to talk about that later.
It was such a mess that honestly, I'm like, even we could do a better job. And it's not about the teachers. They're doing what they can. It's just about what they're making them do. And so we pulled them out. And so we have a girl coming 4 mornings a week to work with them through the basic academics. I have a PA who's here right now, a personal assistant named Julia. This is all for the house, by the way. I haven't gotten the business. So Julia's here running 18 loads of laundry for us and doing a giant Trader Joe's shop, right? And just making sure the house is kind of put together while Brett's out at some meetings. And so that's just the home. And I always share that because I feel like, you see these, especially the actresses and celebs and stuff, you never see their nanny. You never know who's working for them. You never know how many people it takes, to keep things going. And then the business, which is where I feel in control.
Things are predictable, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Give me let's do a Zoom. This is some days where I feel the most in control and where I make things happen. And that's why I'm not good at meshing things, by the way. I like very separate time. When the door's closed, I'm time to be Allie Brown. right? And I know people can do it different ways, and there's no one right way to do all this, by the way. I hope we all acknowledge that with each other. And, I have 3 interviews today. If I have an interview, it's hair and makeup, and I'm doing more of this then. If I look like this today, I'm going to look like this all day on interviews.
Yes.
And if I don't look like this, I'm not doing interviews. So I try to batch everything.
Yes.
Like some of you people, working at home, you have those camera days and not camera days. Mm-hmm. What else is going on this afternoon? I'll actually look at my schedule. I have like 2 of my premier clients, which are the clients I work with individually, like, ongoing. And then I have a doctor appointment at 4, and we need to still know and decide what's for dinner. And I called my CPA, and that's today. It's kind of a random day, but that's today. Yesterday I had the team here, my business team here, for a 3-hour meeting. I still love meeting in person. They're local, which was new to hire local, but it was very important to me. So we have this whole living room that really has just turned into like the meeting room, and it's off limits to the kids. And it's where we have the nice furniture, and and we got the flip charts out, and we're doing stuff. And I'm so visual, and I'm very like kinetic. And so for us to make charts and ideas and things on the wall, and then we had Thai food, and those are my favorite days when we can do the in-person.
Those are my favorite days too.
That's like a random sampling. I don't know if that's what you want.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect because it's sort of like the stars, they're just like us segment of this, that I think we put people who we know only through the internet on some kind of a pedestal and don't think about I always think about what does it take for their life to work behind the scenes? I've been captivated by that for years and years. And I think I really appreciate you sharing, honestly, like here's the help I have at home. I am not doing all of this. I think we are doing entrepreneurial women in particular a disservice if they think we have a kid on each hip and we're, happily typing away at the laptop while we're running a meeting. Like, it just doesn't look like that ever. Can
I tell you a quick story that's so powerful? Because I had this client I was working with, and it's so relevant. I think a lot of you women will love this. This client had really increased her business very quickly. So her revenues had shot up, her team was growing, and the business was rocking. And I could just sense there was something else that she wasn't talking about or dealing with. And so, when you're coaching someone, like you may just, you don't want to pry, but you kind of know there's something else. And I said, listen, if this is out of my lane, let me know, but I'm just getting the feeling there's something going on at home, or what is it? And she's like, no. And then finally 2 calls later, and I'm like, okay, you've got to tell me what's going on. And she's like, and she just lost it. She's like, my husband's not helping with stuff. Like I'm picking up the kids every day. I'm the one going, what the hell's for dinner? Like there's 10 loads of laundry undone. And, we're trying to find piano lessons for Susie and all this stuff. And I'm like, give yourself grace. I said, your business has skyrocketed. Your responsibilities with the business have skyrocketed, but you haven't elevated your support at home to match that, right? We elevate our support in the business. We know we need an assistant and a marketing person and a Facebook ads person, all this, but we don't think about home. And often it's the last unspoken thing that needs to be dealt with. So I always love telling that story because, and I then went on to coach her through it because she really had to get her head around it and permission. So I'm glad
and there's so much pride wrapped up in how we play that role. Like what do we look like as a wife, as a mother, as a homeowner? And that, I think it's almost easier to justify the help at work than it is because we feel like somehow we're cheating, on our responsibilities. Yeah. So I got over that a long time ago, but we talk about it a lot within our coaching community, that how do you amp up your support and be unapologetic about who it is that you're bringing in. In my case, I don't have a nanny. I have a granny. My mom has nannied for our kids forever. And my oldest is now 16. So, it's been a good long run here. And I never could have done what I've done without her day in and day out, hands-on support. It's huge. Yeah. So you've been coaching women entrepreneurs for a number of years now. And you're someone I mentioned before we started recording. I started following, more than a decade ago when I started my business. And today you have chosen to work exclusively with the top 3% or so of women, 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. Tell us about why. Why did you choose to focus there?
Yeah. It started, there was an external decision, there was an internal decision, and I can't remember which one came first, but now, when you were following me then way back in like 2010, like around when I was having the Shine, these big conferences with like acrobats.
Yes.
I mean, that's the way we
Very
did it.
produced.
It was,
yes.
it was so much fun. It was so much fun. So, I had this very big presence, this big life. I was having a ball. It was all amazing. And then, a few things happened that I didn't see coming. And one of them was I wasn't watching the industry close enough to see what was going on. And I'll tell you the very quick version of this. And those of you who are new and have only lived with social media won't understand this. But before social, it was a very different game. And it was a lot, there's some things I loved about it and missed about it. And some things that are easier now too. So it's a give and take. But social media, when that came along, it changed marketing forever. And so I was using it, I was on it. But suddenly, and I'll just give a quick example. My team's starting to get calls like, what's the difference between your business coaching program and this dancing coach? The people dancing in their videos. I'm like, well, I have a freaking Inc. 500 company. Start off telling them that. Like, who are these people?
Right.
I'm like, like just all this crazy, slick, gorgeous marketing stuff started coming out. I mean, people are just really into it. And I just kept focusing on the business. I just kept focusing on my clients and the great work I was doing and all that. And then the other thing we were doing is taking care of, I think, too many people. And we were, especially after I did Secret Millionaire, the ABC show, we got a lot of people coming in who, were like, can you help us? We don't even have a business and we don't even have money. And I'm like, sure. And so I start creating, you may remember this, we had like a $10 a month club at some point. I just felt like, oh, I should help these people. And they're so we had everything. I'm not making this up, from a $10 a month something, whatever it was, up to the clients I like to work with personally. And at that point it was $100,000 a year. And, it was working. It was working for a while until I had realized we'd reached the point that I was taking care of so many people. And I do this when I'm speaking, like I'll say, I loved working with the women up here and working closely with them. And then, but we're still trying to take care of the people down here. You can only go so far when
your arms will only stretch so far.
On the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I don't think you could nail your niche right out the gate. This typically takes time to evolve too. So give yourself grace. You may expand and then contract and then say, oh, these are the people, or this is the niche. And it's going to be an evolution. So I got clearer and clearer on who I loved to work with personally, but also that was where no one had a problem knowing that that's what I did. No one had a problem knowing that, oh, Ali owns that category.
Yes.
Like that's where I was like, where am I untouchable? Because when it got to be a mess, and also I was personally just really craving like something creative and having more time. And by the way, I actually finally met a man and decided to have kids, and all this perfect storm came together. I'm like, I want to simplify. I got to pick a lane, and it may feel smaller. That's where the ego got involved. We could talk about that if you want. That was a knockdown, drag out fight for me.
With your ego. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Who am I if I don't have these huge programs and events in Vegas when like cowboy models carry me off the stage and, like the big stuff. Is this still big? Is this still big enough?
Yes.
Right. But it was where I was untouchable, a category of one. And I'll tell you, the 2 years it took me to turn the ship, start kind of letting some things go little by little, cleaning up little messes, making big decisions, being okay with it. I then had a business that was 10 times simpler, went down to a team of 2 part-time people from 20 full-time. And I'm going to share this with you. I could make a case for that my net was even higher, my personal net.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I'm talking about when you're making these decisions, and no one on the outside may understand what's going on, right? But you're like, okay, I could work 3 days a week, spend time with these gorgeous babies and my new husband. I moved my mom here. We're taking care of her too, by the way. I forgot to even mention that, and really reoriented. And now what's amazing is from that decision, from that place is where I birthed my next and greatest big mission, which is the Trust. And that's the organization I just started for 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. It's a network. That is where my legacy play then was birthed from. And I couldn't, in the middle of all the mess.
Well, and I love that. So I want to dig into a few pieces of this. There was you said
there's a lot
going on in the external world. Well, we have listening today, we'll have definitely a lot of entrepreneurs, not all entrepreneurs. And so I'm always looking for how does this translate, whether you're working in a company, you're, making a legacy in a community or your family, or whether you're working as an entrepreneur. And it does, right? It translates across those. So you saw something happening externally, which was the market was shifting. It was getting more crowded. Everyone started to look the same. And it was gimmicky around how do you carve out positioning. And you were like, you know what? I'm going to go over here where there are fewer people. And I'm more uniquely qualified to serve. And I can really be, I think you said, a category of one. Right? So I'm going to be the coach for 7 and 8 figure women entrepreneurs. I'm going to really make an impact for them. And I think it's so critical that you said to the outside world, it could have looked like something was broken. It could have looked like, oh, she must not be succeeding because look, she's pivoting or changing. But there was
she's giving up.
Yeah.
I heard giving up rumors about that. I heard the strangest stuff. And I tell you something too, you go through that, you know who your friends are in the industry. I don't have many left. I have some very close friends, and the rest I really don't care about. When you make a move like that, and then you hear some people are talking behind your back you thought were your friends, it's heartbreaking.
It is. And that is so relatable because we worry so much about judgment. We worry so much. I have heard more stories of, I would do it, but how would it look? How would it look to my parents, my colleagues, my neighbors, so that fear of judgment gets in our way. And I think, I want to talk about the word iconic in a minute because you use it really well. But that notion of being iconic requires you to stand in the face of judgment and other people's ideas about who you are supposed to be. I want to circle back to the clients you have, these 7 and 8 figure women entrepreneurs. It's rarefied air, right? It's 3% of the entrepreneurs get that far. Why do you think that is?
Oh, yeah. It's, and especially for the women, it's really interesting. I do feel this won't be PC or popular to say, but I do feel there's a point that some of them feel this may not be worth it. And I think we need to realize that. Like there's a point that you may say, you know what, and even if it could be subconscious, you could say, you know what, I can see this is going to take more work than I may want to do, or a skill set I'm not willing to take on, or they just can't figure out some of the pieces. The team stuff is a big one, by the way. They may need help with the model, but sometimes I do feel like there's this identified barrier for women that they really have to break through. And there's no clear formula for doing that, but it's something that, once they're through it, there is like a metamorphosis that happens. And that's why it's a different conversation once they're through that typically. There's just so many layers to it.
Yeah, it feels like there's an identity piece that because it's rare, it's like, it's the holy grail. It's held out there. And then what happens if I cross it? Who do I become? What do I chase then? So sometimes I think we resist like what could be perceived as a finish line, because when you reach the finish line, then what?
Yeah.
So that's always intriguing to me of why, the statistics on this are really kind of saddening. How many women the numbers of women entrepreneurs is exceptional, but they're tiny by and large. It's so hard to get kind of lift off at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think we're going to see more of them coming because they also are seeing more of each other. And, in the grand scope of business too, we have to remember in a historical timeline, business is still generally new for women, right? As a species, like really like, and then the whole internet thing just social's only been out, for example, for what really gangbusters, 11, 12 years, right? Or something. So we are inventing all these new models, and we haven't had models to look at as far as other women doing the multiple millions. But here's the exciting thing that, and it's one of the reasons that it gave me confidence in zoning in my niche and staying in this lane, is Amex State of Women-Owned Businesses report that came out at the end of last year. There's 2 fastest growing segments of women in business. The first is the very bottom, the under 25,000. Now, it didn't get clear on that, but I would assume they're very beginner, or maybe the part-time businesses at home, or they're just getting started. The second fastest growing is the million plus.
That's awesome.
So I think we're going to see that really start to take off, and especially as we have more women to model, because I do, and I hate to say it, but the home thing probably is for many women, at least the ones I've worked with. It gets in the way, and it's not cool to talk about. Apparently, it was interesting. I was on a panel. It wasn't an ink thing, but there was something, I can't remember even what event it was, but there was a very successful woman on the stage. And before she went on, someone told me, I didn't hear it firsthand, but they said, oh, she said absolutely no questions about life balance or, home or personal, or she thinks it's insulting because men don't get asked that. And I get that. But I said back to the interviewer later, I said, you know what, we should let her know though, there's a reason we're asking. There's a reason we're asking. It makes me want to cry. There's a reason we're asking that. And that means it is still a big problem.
Right. Yeah. Which is, tell me how to do it. Tell me what as soon as you talked about, Gabby and Julia in your life, in your house, helping with your kids, like people have a picture now of maybe that's what it looks like. And maybe that's the frontier, that's the choice I need to make to open up the headspace and the calendar space to do something newer, right? Ever feel like instead of you running your week is running you? I know, we've all been there. Too often it feels like time is racing by and we're just struggling to keep up. But listen, it doesn't have to be this way. Let me help you take control of your calendar once and for all. Get my downloadable guide and learn how you can align your time with your priorities and get a handle on your never-ending to-do list. Head over to brilliant-balance.com/calendar to download your guide and get control over your calendar starting today. So the financial piece is in the mix. How do you ladder those investments personally and professionally so that they're, they pay off, so that the time that you get back isn't reading magazines. I'm using it for something really judicious.
Totally. And that could be gradual. I've known absolute startup beginner, businesswomen and moms just starting off with saying, I'm going to have someone 2 mornings a week so I can have like 3 hours shutting the door of my office to get stuff done. You can build it up. It's gradual too. There are a lot of great people looking for work right now. There are a lot of women looking for extra cash. Yep. And I look at it too. I'm giving these ladies a job. Yes. I'm giving my housekeeper who comes weekly a job, right? We are keeping things going. And they've thanked me for that, that I'm doing that. And so, there's so many levels to this again, like in how we approach it, but it's, this was new for my generation. I did not grow up with having help at home. My mom did it all, right? I didn't have a model for that. Some women did, which is, they're like, oh, I have no problem, calling a housekeeper. I'm like, I had to really kind of work through that. Like, is that okay?
Right.
It's more popular today than it was, 15 years ago, I think. But I had to kind of work through, like, who the hell am I?
Yeah, how do I deserve that? Right.
Putting up my, decorations or whatever it is, but reframe it in your mind how you need to convince yourself before you can do it. So make a financial case for it for yourself, make an emotional case for it, whatever you need to do.
I love it. One of the things I love about you and your career timeline is that you have stayed ahead of the curve. And the most recent move is the one we've been talking about. It's really about letting go of old versions of yourself so that you can evolve. And I think that's the path to being iconic. Like we talked about that word really briefly before. Let's go back to it. What does it mean to be iconic? Like, how do you think about that word?
When I that word kind of kept popping up for me when I was planning a workshop, which I had 3 years in a row and then said it was the last one. But that for me was the next level. That was, let's get out of the how-to and start getting into the what if. Mm-hmm. Let's get out of the what am I doing and get into the who am I being and who do I want to be. And for me, it just raised the game so much. Like, what would it feel like to truly be someone who is an icon in their industry, And just the feeling of that word means you're representing the best and highest of those qualities of which you're representing. And I just loved the word. I fell in love with the way it looked. It was a great font. So like it just became a brand for me. And the women loved it who came to that workshop because they said it got them to think bigger. And it was a different crowd in there. It was very interesting. It appealed to a different type of person. And I think this is a great message, especially for this year, is, when this all hit earlier this year, I don't even know what to call this year anymore. But, we were all kind of like, I know for me, like I just launched the Trust. It's based on live events. Awesome. Right. Great year to launch that.
Right.
so we were like watching things like, we're going to make a move, pull back. We're making a move, pull back. And so the aim for this year was to just have a strong start. May not be the biggest year we're going to have by any means, but like it was a strong start. We worked out, everything was solid. 2021 now, we have no choice but to just freaking go for it now. Like whatever that, this year was maybe about like, keeping on, or like, getting things going, or maybe incremental growth for most people, I would say, right? I'm just generalizing, but generally people weren't going for aiming for the stars this year.
Unless you're Zoom.
Trying to get by.
Right?
Yeah, unless you're Zoom or DoorDash.
Right?
Yeah, all the companies making money while some suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, looking to next year though, let's just go for it. Because even if you shoot up here, you'll land in the middle, right? And so go for that iconic dream. Go for who you want to be, because you know what's going to happen too? There's going to be less competition. There's going to be less people likely playing in your space.
I think that's true for entrepreneurs. And I can see a pathway because of my corporate background to that being true within a corporation. Like you don't want to be a cog in the machine. You don't want to be just the other marketer, the next expendable, finance leader. I think really spending time understanding, I liked how you said, get out of the how to and into the what if, like start thinking about what's really possible if you carved out ownable, unique territory as an entrepreneur or as an employee. Like that's really a powerful idea.
Yeah. And
where does that lead? Like, who are you becoming on that journey? That's a really mind-opening idea. I love it.
Yeah. I love that you're talking also to people who work in corporate or work for companies, because, I still think I got such amazing experience when I worked in my 20s.
Yes.
And knew very early on, though I was quite unemployable. That's why I just ended up leaving. But I knew, I kind of got the game. I knew how to be unique, where I would see an opportunity and say to my boss, and I'm like 26 or something. I said, what our big healthcare client really needs? They told me over lunch they're like, these guys are like, who are you? But I would tell them, and I would just share ideas or say, here's something I have to improve our process. Like I just always see things that need to be fixed. I think that's a gift, and it's also a curse, by the way. I see everything wrong with companies and businesses I go into, and it drives me nuts. So, be that person who shares the ideas and tries to make a difference and is entrepreneurial. Because I'll tell you what's coming up the pike. I have a good friend here in town. You know what her job is? She works for one of the big 5 consulting firms. She goes into companies and finds roles that can be replaced with AI. Ew. This is coming faster than we thought. Okay. So even if you're in a job, communication, ideas, connections, the things that cannot be replaced by a computer are going to be the most valuable in the future. That is why I didn't want my kids on a device all day, right? They love the iPads, we're on the iPads, but when I just started seeing what our particular school was doing wasn't going to work for us. So, and we're very blessed to be able to have them here and have so much interaction with them. Yeah. So, for you personally, look for the skills that cannot be replaced in whatever environment you're in.
Yes. And that's a perfect bridge, because I want to talk a little bit about this bold decision you made with your children this year. Being iconic is really about knowing yourself. It's about deciding for yourself, making the choices that are exactly right for you. And I think through the Trust, you've collected a whole cohort of women who already believe that. And now they need community, right? Now they need a way to connect with each other and share ideas. Doing things that feels exactly right to you, does it get easier over time? Do you feel like now you can make these choices more readily?
Oh, yeah. And I'm telling you, just my 40s have been this, I just almost want to cry. I wish I had this certainty 15 years ago, even 10 years ago. There is this solidness. And I don't know, girls listening, if you're on the younger side, it just gets better, right? You need a little more upkeep, but but it just gets better, because every decision you get clearer and clearer and clearer in who you are and what you're interested in. And then quite frankly, just what you're not interested in. And then the kids were a different level though of that knowing, because then there's other lives at stake, right? And
Yes.
these decisions get bigger because you suddenly worry, like a decision I make with my business even could influence my family, right? It's
Yes.
different than when you're on your own. And so it is a different game though with children. I'm not going to deny that.
Well, yeah, because there it feels like there's more at stake. Someone else can, wait. So the decision you made, and we've kind of talked around it, is you're homeschooling this year. You have twins.
Yeah.
They're 7. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are they
yeah.
7? So
yeah.
tell
Boy,
us
girl.
why you made the decision and what have you learned through the journey of homeschooling?
Well, it's funny because years ago, if you said homeschool to me, I thought of like the Duggars. This
Yes.
is like, the TV shows on like 10 years ago, and they're lined up in matching denim, carrying their Bibles. And
right.
I'm just like, I don't want to live in the woods and wear that outfit. I had this kind of homeschool stigma because you'd see these like weird homeschool people. And I'm like, well, I always thought the idea was amazing though, but I'm like, how do you turn into that? Or how does this even work? And then,
right.
So, and I tell you, when the kids, since they were ever even like 3 years old, they loved going to school. They loved like the first day we dropped them off at preschool, they cried when we picked them up. Like they are social. They're so social. So we had no plans to do this. We always thought, wouldn't it be cool though to do more of this world schooling? My husband's from Australia. We love international travel. But, we kind of settled in when I went to first grade and couldn't really, we had to stick with the schedule. I'm like, oh, I guess this is what it is, right? But we always had this homeschool fantasy. And so this year when I could just tell they were at a Montessori, and they're at a beautiful little charter Montessori that we loved. It's hands-on. It's a lot of tactile activities. If you're familiar with that schooling model, they'll farm in the back with goats and chickens. I mean, it's everything you would dream for a young child to have that kind of experience. And then when COVID hit and we saw just the school district here starting to make some decisions that affected that school, and it just wasn't going to be everything we loved about it last year. They were changing a lot of things, and no fault of their own. They're following the rules. And then Brett and I kind of looked at each other. This happens occasionally in America. You'll be like, are you thinking what I'm thinking, kind of thing. And there were a few things that we didn't like with the online for them in particular. Like they were going to be online for 6 or 7 hours a day on and off. And I'm thinking, these kids are 7. And also that prevented us from going to do activities with them during the day that we saw an opportunity for. So we decided to pull them out, which by the way is quite simple. You fill out a form. Arizona, they don't even check what you're teaching them. So it's very loose here. I know some states are completely different, but here they're like, all right, good luck, send you off. So making that decision for us, it was, we talked with the kids about it too. It wasn't just like, we're doing this. We're like, here's what we've decided to try, and we can change our mind, but we're going to try because school this year is going to look a lot different. And we're not going to like it. And I don't think you will like it either. Mm-hmm. And so it's been a journey. It's been, I've had some friends say, oh, you need this online classical curriculum and blah, blah, blah. We ended up finding just a great girl here in town. I purchased some curriculum and supplies online that looked good to me for second grade. And I said, get through the academics with them. We keep in touch on what's going on. And then we're doing the fun stuff with them. I signed them up for the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center trip and, hiking to learn about history in the Superstition Mountains. And I honestly wish I could do a lot more of this right now. Mm-hmm. I'm in a heavy period with the business right now, but I love it. I love them learning more about the world and who they are. And I think going forward, it's interesting. This year has been about disrupting any institution, yes, any system that had a problem. And there's some things that we kind of tolerated, right? Politics we've tolerated. There's so much corruption on all sides and just everything going on that you're like, is that really happening? All this stuff over here and here too. And then healthcare, right? We realized how dramatically unprepared our system was for something like this to happen this year. But education was also disrupted. People are now going, oh, this is interesting. More people are homeschooling now than ever before. A lot of people are doing the same thing. And again, ladies, I think we all need to know there's no one best way to do this.
Right.
You know what's right for you. This mom war stuff, it's just can't deal with it. And I bet there may be a day that I will be delighted to pack their lunch and put them back.
Yes.
Right? Like I'll be like, there you go.
Right.
So give ourselves permission that this is a dance of all the years to do this, of all the years to dance with what you really want to do or how you really want to raise your family or the business you'd really love to go for. This is the time because everything's a mess anyway, Yes. So
I mean,
That's where
Allie,
I come
think
from on
that's
that.
the theme of your whole conversation with us today is this. It's an evolution. You're not making decisions that have to last forever. You're making decisions from the vantage point you have now on the stretch of road you can see. And then you run that stretch of road and then you steer, right? There's like the next stretch ahead, whether that's in your business, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's with your kids or their school, or, I mean, all of it is, I think we get so hung up and like, I was having a discussion with somebody on my team this morning about her daughter's choosing a college. She's a senior. And we were saying like, they make it sound like it's this end all and be all, like, this is it. If you screw this up, your whole life is going to be screwed up. And I mean, you can change your school. You can change your major. Like we can get into this black or white, all or nothing thinking that is really constricting. So I think one of the themes I'm extracting from today is this, not only willingness, but really like an excitement about changing your mind and leaning into the experiences that creates.
Totally. And I think this is an exciting time. Everything looks terrible right now outside the door, right? Like there's things terrible that blow up. I'm telling you, this is taking us somewhere so incredible that we are going to be realigning our communities and our families and how we really want to do things. There's going to be a lot more, like, I think, clarity in how we really do want to educate our kids. And college is a great thing. Will college be worth it, 15 years from now for my children? I don't even know. So I'm questioning now. I went to college. My grandmother even was one of the very first women to go to university. She was the first in our family for sure, but that was very unusual at the time. So, I came from a family like there was no questioning that you would go to college. And now, honestly, I'm like, if I just don't even know. I just don't even know. And I can't know, we'll bank it. But
I have a 16-year-old and I thought, wow, this revolution's not going to happen before she's making those decisions. And then 2020 happened and we got a 10-year acceleration on the curve. So, I mean, even my kids are 10, 13, and 16, and we are going to be in the thick of that, like the transformation. Wow. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that our listeners know where they can find you online. Obviously, your work will be most relevant for those who are seasoned entrepreneurs, but you have a podcast as well that I want to make sure everybody knows about. Can you tell us where to find you?
Yeah, everyone's going to love the podcast, all levels. Listen, it's Glambition Radio. It's a fun name, but we have really intelligent conversations like this one. And I interview incredible women leaders on that show. And alliebrown.com is my site where you could find everything. Jointhetrust.org is the network. If you do know women who are at the 7 or 8 figure levels who are a little tired of the kind of boss babe, bitch girl, badass conversations out there, it's just a different, place. It's a safe haven for us. And then the last thing I want to say, mostly where I play personally is on Instagram. I'm on all the platforms, but my team does most of it. I can't stomach Facebook personally anymore. So I'm on Instagram most of the time. That's Allie Brown Official.
Perfect. I'm going to do a quick speed round with you before we wrap. You ready?
Oh, that's right. Okay.
These are easy. Okay. First thing is, what makes you feel brilliant?
When I'm in my zone and I know it's my zone.
Awesome. What's your favorite time-saving or productivity hack?
Having a personal assistant here at the house.
What have you learned to say no to?
Almost everything.
What's one dream you're chasing today?
International travel is a dream again. It's an absolute dream. We miss it. We're wanderlusty. The kids are too.
And what's the song that you turn on when you need to get in the zone?
I don't have a specific song, but my favorite Pandora channel to listen to during the day when it's just like, it's like a nice upbeat. It's upbeat, but with light lyrics. It's kind of good background is Satin Jackets radio. Satin Jackets. They like, it's like dance, but like kind of upbeat electronic. It's not moody. I think it's just a nice positive vibe.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight, your wisdom, your experience with us today. I hope everybody listening has learned something that you can take away and apply in your own life. And it's been a delight, Allie.
Thank you. This is great.
Oh my goodness. I loved Allie's perspective on being iconic. Did it make you think about where I don't know, you've outgrown your vision and you need a refresh. I know that listening to her throughout this interview really got my wheels turning, which is always fun. It would not be the first time that I did something to refresh the business vision and to fall in love with it all over again. And I just love that that's a journey that she's taking so many women on so courageously, right? Whether you're an entrepreneur or not, that willingness to reinvent yourself so that you feel like you're always being exactly true to who you are right now, in this moment in time, in this chapter. Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? What are you steering toward? That is everything. And that is what we were talking about as being iconic. So if you are new around here, new to the Brilliant Balance community, please come join us. We have a thriving Facebook group. It's just called Brilliant Balance. Go to Facebook, search groups for Brilliant Balance. You'll find us there. We will welcome you in. Also, you can find me on Instagram at cskolnicki, and you can find Brilliant Balance on Instagram at brilliant_balance. Follow along in all the places. There's always good stuff coming at you in those social channels. That is all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.